Okay, welcome everybody to Callers and Cars Getting Drinks. Y'all got your drink, I hope. I got my whatever this is. I would never tell. Oh, Dr. Pepper, yeah. Okay, very good. So today's guest caller is Darryl Lipscomb, originally, well, from Texas, but he's living in Oklahoma now. It is a witness protection program, I understand.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So welcome, Darryl. Glad to have you
Thank
on
you.
site. It's been other than a brief winter a number of years ago. Our first meeting was many, many years ago, if you remember, in Toledo, Ohio.
I remember it vividly.
It's amazing because you were thin, you had hair, you had motorcycles.
I
I had
still
my
have the motorcycles, but have lost everything else.
yeah, I had my motorcycle with the sidecar rig.
You
Uh,
did. You did. I
yeah,
remember that. I remember that.
that was
That
fun
was a
times.
long time ago. Wow.
That wasn't it?
Whew.
Gosh, it's more than 2 years at least, eh?
Oh, but yeah, probably a little more than that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
just a little more. So, um, Chris, you moved back to Oklahoma just after, or just before the COVID business. So, do you miss calling there?
Well, now let me. Now, I didn't move back to Oklahoma. We moved to Oklahoma because
Okay.
I never lived in Oklahoma. I'm a diehard Texan through and through. And the one thing I've learned real quickly about Oklahoma is during football season, do not mention the fact that I'm from Texas. Boy, it gets brutal here. Do I miss calling in Texas? Is that what you're asking me now?
Yeah.
Decca and I, my wife, we just took a 2 week vacation. And believe it or not, it's the first vacation that we've had since we've been married. And we've been married now for 15 years. And it's probably one of the first vacations I've taken since I'd say either the late 70s or early 80s, because, my whole life was square dancing. And we went to South Texas to visit friends. And I promised her before we left that I would not agree to call any dances. We would only go visit, do what we wanted to do, and have fun. And we did that. And it was so funny. As soon as the word had gotten out that we were going to vacation to South Texas, I started getting phone calls. And I got phone calls from a couple of callers. Hey, well, here you're coming down. How about doing blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, no, no, no. I have promised. If I do that, I'll probably be skinned alive. But you know, I I miss the work. Not really. I miss the people. I miss the players, and our friends. Because in those 35 years, we made so many friends, and literally from all over the world who came down there to visit us. And I do miss that. I miss that as well as Decca misses it too. But as far as the work, I am totally enjoying not having to be up by 6:30 to get everything ready for the morning sessions. It was just unbelievable. You know what it takes, Joe. I mean, to pull off a winter program, it's a lot of work. And I'm not sure if you ever came to any of my Friday morning advanced dances, where I serve coffee and rolls, apple fritters. And so I had to be at my baker by 7 o'clock in the morning to pick up all the apple fritters for that session. Now I know you came to the C2 after
Yeah.
that, and probably I'm not sure. My baker retired, and that might have been the year you were there. And so I would always have
Uh,
enough rolls for the C2 dancers when they came in as well.
oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was at Far South. That's where I finished up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I
Yeah.
finished up. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody that was doing the in charge of the C1 had contacted me about coming down and all, but the situation I have here is really good for now.
That's
So,
good.
it's kind of nice. I'm not working very hard, and
Yeah.
it's community, it's family. It's really nice. So that works. So
Well,
how different is it in Oklahoma compared to Texas for calling?
um, not a lot. So much of my calling was in South Texas, and there it was just a lot of sessions. When I first went down there, if I'm not mistaken, I was doing something like 16 sessions a week. And then I finally wised up and started streamlining. And so it was just, other than, it was just a lot of work, a lot of work.
Yeah.
But as far as calling goes, not really. I can't say there's any difference in calling in, whatever part of Texas you're in as opposed to here in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I will say this, in Texas, if as a caller I was going to miss a dance, I would always secure a caller to fill in. And up here, I got to noticing they don't do that. They just cancel the dance if a caller can't make it.
Oh,
And I asked one of the callers, I said, so why do y'all just cancel your dances rather than get a substitute caller? And the response I got was, they said when this started, when they started working it that way in Oklahoma, there just weren't that many callers and they could never get it. So, they had to cancel. And I said, well, that's strange. I said, in Texas, we always, the caller would line up a substitute caller. And now just last week, I got a phone call to fill in as a substitute. So maybe what I said rang a bell.
back to work again. Yay.
Back to work. Yeah. Yeah. Just a one-time shot though, luckily.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite a difference from those 16 sessions a week. I know
Whew.
when I first came to Florida, I was on the other coast over to Fort Myers side there, and it was 7 days a week. I had
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon off. There was about a 3 hour span. The rest of the time it was work, work, work. And of course, with y'all, anybody that's unchallenged, the amount of work that has to be done to write the choreography to keep them all happy.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
And
I was,
especially when you're calling, when you have, I call it a captive group. You've got that group of dancers,
yeah,
not just for that one session a week, but for several sessions a week. And you got to be doing different things. It's a lot of work. I don't miss that.
no, yeah, I don't miss the work, but you know, I had three C4 sessions a week
Mhm.
as well, which that's even
Oh yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
anyhow, so how did you and Decca meet up?
I was, Joseph, I had finished, let me think, let me get this in my mind. Yes, I had finished up a winter season, and Joe Sawtell and I were headed to St. Louis to do the St. Louis Jamboree. And I told Joe, I said, look, I'm going to stop in Dallas and call a dance for the singles, and I'll just meet you on in St. Louis. So I go to the dance in Dallas, and it was a singles dance. And, I, like all callers, I think, I try to get around to all the dancers at some point in time during the night, thank them for coming and, recognize them. And I noticed this gal sitting on the sidelines the whole dance. And so when I got around making my thank yous and all to everybody, I got over to her and I said, well, obviously you must not be a dancer. And she says, no, I'm not. And I said, well, does this look like something you would enjoy doing? Her reply was, no. And I'm like, ooh, okay. And I kind of tucked my tail between my legs, moved on down the line. So we finished our summer season, and then I went on down to the valley. On my way down to the valley, I guess it was after that summer, I stopped in Dallas to do a luau dance again for the singles. And I kept noticing this lady on the dance floor. I thought, boy, she looks so familiar. And I thought, she must have been a dancer in a previous life. And I kept thinking, where do I know her from? And finally it dawned on me, that was that gal that wanted nothing to do with square dancing. And so I went over to her and I said, can I ask you a question? And she said, sure. I said, what changed your mind about square dancing since the last time I saw you? And she said, oh, we've never met. And I said, yes, we have. And she said, "Oh, no, no, we've never met." And I said, "Yes, and I'll tell you the circumstances." And I said, I told her the dance, where she was at, and in fact, she sat there all night long and watched. And she said, "Oh, well, I guess we have met, but you don't remember me." And I said, "Oh, yes, I do." And I told her what she was wearing that night, and her jaw dropped. And she says, "I guess we really have met." And so I always kept a motorcycle in Dallas. That was kind of my home base area for so many years. And I kept a motorcycle there, and I rode that motorcycle to the dance. And I parked it right in the foyer of the dance hall. And she said, "The dancers tell me that your motorcycle out there." And I said, "Yeah, it is." And I said, do you ride, or do you like to ride?" She said, "Oh yeah, I like to ride." And I said, "Well, look, why don't Sunday afternoon we go?" The Bluebonnets were in season. I said, "Why don't we go Sunday afternoon and go see the Bluebonnets out south of Dallas?" And so we met, and I remember telling her that I really was not looking for anything. I had a lady that I was dating. She said, "That's good," because she had a guy she was dating. And, neither one of us were looking for anything. And the next thing I know was like, did anybody get the number of that bus that just
Yeah.
ran down? And we dated throughout the summer. And the next winter, she would make trips down to the valley. And then that following summer, Kirkwood Lodge was my first start for our summer tour, and we got married at Kirkwood Lodge. And
Wow.
and that was, that I kept thinking, she asked me, she said, "Do you have any special place where you'd like us to get married?" And I said, "There's two places, Kirkwood Lodge or McLeod, California, up at
Mm.
McLeod Dance Country." I said, "Those are two fabulous places, and they're probably two of my most favorite places that we call out." And we ended up choosing Kirkwood because it was early in the summer,
Oh,
and McLeod would have been late in the summer. So we went ahead and did it then. And that whole thing was so funny. Um, you know, neither one of us knew what the marriage laws were for Missouri. And, we didn't know if there was, a waiting period. We didn't know what was doing. So we get to Missouri. Well, I had made some phone calls and found out that there was no waiting period. And so we talked about, how we wanted to get married and everything there. And back in those days, Kirkwood had Kirkwood didn't have the cruise ship, but there was a cruise ship, the Celebration, that based right there at Kirkwood Lodge. And so I had told her, I said, "I would like for us to get married on the cruise ship. There's a place on the lake called, I think they called it the Wedding Cove or the Marriage Cove or something like that." And I said, "That would be a neat place." And so then we had thought, well, we got to find a preacher. And so I had thought, I would not mind finding one of the motorcycle ministries, finding a minister from one of the motorcycle ministries to marry us. Well, I sent emails to everyone I could think of and never got a single response. And we were coming back from Camdenton, where we had just got the marriage license. It was on a motorcycle now. We're coming back from Camdenton, and we're talking about, well, we haven't found a minister that will marry us that can marry us yet from the motorcycle ministry. So we passed a church. It was a Presbyterian, I think it was a Presbyterian church right there at Osage Beach. And I pointed and I said, "Well, there's a church there we could stop and talk to." And there was a guy out mowing the yard, mowing the grass. And when I pointed, I guess he thought I was waving, and boy, he's waving back, motioning us in. And so I told her, I said, "I'm going to turn around. We're going to go back in there. Maybe we can find a minister there." As it turned out, that was the minister that was out mowing the grass. And I said, "Were you waving for me to come in here or just waving?" He said, "Well, I thought you were waving at me." And I said, "Well, I was just really pointing." And so anyway, he did the ceremony. And I know a lot of you guys will know the name Bob Byer. Bob Byer and I did that. We worked together for many, many years. We did the Kirkwood Week for many, many years. And Bob was the best man for our wedding. And Becca had said to me, she said, I would like to have someone sing a song at our wedding. And I said, well, you need to talk to Bob. I said, that he's the man. And so every time Decca would try to talk to Bob, Bob would just a la Bob Byer, he was jerking her chain the whole time. Now, keep in mind, this is her first taste of the square dance world. I mean, she jumped right out of the frying pan into the fire. And Bob's, oh, yeah, yeah, I got the perfect song for you. How about I sing, You Tractored Up the Fields of My Heart and Sowed the Seeds of Love? And she's like, no, Bob, and she had a particular song in mind. And Bob kept telling her he didn't know it. And finally, on the day of the wedding, we were sitting at lunch. And she says, Bob, have you come up with a song yet? And here again, Bob's jerking her chain. And she says, Bob Byer, if you screw up this wedding, I'm going to throw you off that cruise ship. Well, when we go down to board the cruise ship, all the dancers are on board. Bob Byer is standing there at the ship to greet us, and he's got his life jacket on. And I told her, I said, really, don't worry. I said, Bob will come through. Well, and he did. As it turned out, he came through, did the song she wanted. Everything was great. Well, then at the end of the ceremony, the minister says, I need a marriage certificate. And so I had given Bob the marriage license and the money for the preacher. And Bob pops up, a la Bob Byer. Oh, I got it right here. I got it here. Bob comes diddly bopping down the aisle, and we got married. It was on a Wednesday, and the preacher says to Bob, and this was so apropos. He says, Bob, today's Wednesday, and Bob says, yep. Preacher says, Bob, this is 2-for-1 Wednesdays. And Bob Byer just froze, and he was totally speechless. And I told the preacher, and I told Becca, I said, I've known Bob since I was a kid, and that's one of the very few times I've ever seen him speechless. It was quite a story. And the owner of Kirkwood Lodge at that time, he came to they came for the wedding, and he shows up in a pair of bib overalls, straw hat, and a shotgun. So we had a true shotgun wedding right there, but it was so much fun. So many memories there, but that's the story of Decca and I.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How many years has it been now?
15.
15. Good memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good memory.
She won't let me, she won't let me forget.
Do you have to take a test every year?
Pretty much. She keeps telling me she's given me the best years of her life.
Oh, Lordy. Sounds good. I guess we want to stick to some off the cuff kind of things too. I remember when you were when I was down in Texas, one of the things you were doing was making pens and pencils,
Yeah. Yeah.
custom. Are you still doing that?
Yeah. I do. That's a hobby. And right now, I've gotten into these. They call them pigtail meat flippers, and they're
Oh,
the neatest things. Yeah,
yeah.
and see, during COVID, I never had time to really pursue any of those hobbies, and so during COVID, that's what I really got into it big then, and now I have my own shop out beside the house, and I had a shop in South Texas, but I really didn't get to spend that much time in there because I was always working. And so now that, we have cut way back on calling, we haven't quit, but, we've cut way back. And I've got much more time to do that. And I love going into my shop and playing around and just,
That's great.
metal art, but, woodworking, anything like that, anything
Hmm.
like that.
Quite a change from playing with motorcycles.
Well, I still do that too.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. It's a whole lot safer too.
Oh yeah, 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 right. What about that silver Corvette you had down there? Do you still have that?
No, I sold that because I actually bought that Corvette for Decca.
Oh,
And I'm trying to remember, we had bought a new car, a Chevy Traverse for our travels. Well, I was going to buy a new pickup. And when I found out what it was going to cost me to replace the pickup I had, I thought, are you kidding me? So we just bought this new Chevy Traverse, and the pickup was fine. There wasn't anything wrong with it. And so I thought, the way we were still traveling big time then, and I thought, my goodness, we're going to rack up the miles on this new car. And I thought, I need to get something for her to run around town in. So I bought her that Corvette, and
Ah,
she drove it one time, and that was it. And so the rest of the time I drove it, and we probably had it at a lot of the dances that you were at too,
oh,
probably.
yeah.
I think, but that was the life of the Corvette. So when we decided to move to Oklahoma, I told her, I said, you don't drive the car, and we don't need three vehicles. So I said, we're gonna sell the Corvette. So as it turned out, a guy down the street from me had been eyeing it for a long time,
Oh,
and he had stopped and talked to me several times about it. And he said, please give me first right of refusal.
oh,
And
wow.
so I didn't even have to call him. I just parked the car out front of my house, put a for sale sign on it, and boy, he was there. Boom. And
Wow.
boom. I kidded everybody. They said, how'd you come out? And I said, well, I sold it too cheap. I got my asking price. Because he never even hiccuped. He took it. He said, I've been wanting that car ever since I saw it. So
No kidding.
I lucked out
Wow.
on that. Yeah, I lucked out on
That's great. That's great.
that.
So, when did you start square dancing?
I started square dancing in 1958. My parents danced. It was a big activity back then, family activity. And my sister and I would go to the dances. I don't know if you remember the name Rocky Strickland. He was a really good caller from Texas.
Oh,
Rocky and
yeah.
I grew up. Rocky and I grew up together,
Oh,
and we had a bunch of kids in our square dance club, and we'd play outside until it got dark, and it would come into the hall and horse around and play around, and we'd get bored in the hall. So as kids, we'd square up in the back of the hall and do our own version of square dancing, which was nothing like what CO Guest was our caller,
oh my
and
gosh.
oh yeah. And one year CO says, okay, we're starting square dance lessons this next season, and I want all those kids in that class. And so that's how it all started. I know you recognize the name CO Guest.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
tell you a funny story about CO. My CO worked for my mother. CO managed, this was back in the day when Goodrich had satellite stores like Firestone and Goodyear do. And CO managed one of those stores. Now, I did not know CO at the time. My mother only knew him through work. And she would come home some evenings. Now, my mother could outcuss most sailors. And she would just be ranting and raving about this man, CO Guest. Said, that's the dumbest guy I've ever met. Said, he manages one of our stores. It was just crazy. So when my parents went down to take square dance lessons, guess who the caller was up on the stage? My mother walked in that hall, and when she saw CO on that stage, I mean, it took my aunt, my uncle, my dad, and a couple of other people to get her in that hall. And they went through the lessons, and at the end of the class, she went up to CO and she says, CO, it does my heart good to know there is something in this world you are good at. And and I got to call with CO a lot of times, and every time I'd call with CO, he would, and invariably during the dance, he would say, "I want y'all to know this boy's mother did me the biggest favor anybody ever did me. She fired my ass, and I had to go to work calling." That was
That's,
so funny.
that's amazing.
I can still to this day, I can see him on that stage. He had a purple cowboy hat on. He had a pair of purple pants. He had on a plaid looking paisley shirt that looked like it took about 6 AA batteries to power it. And he had on a pair of patchwork boots. And of course, CO had those glasses that looked like Coke bottles. And he looked like Bucky Beaver up there. And I can still to this day see him just plain as day on that first night of classes.
That's funny. That's amazing. What what about Ah, so when, you know, with all the dances you've called, what were some of the hardest dances you had to call in terms of either choreography or emotions at the time?
Oh, well, I was in Chicago one time calling, what was it? What they call? Well, the groups there in Chicago, and I was in to do I think I was calling everything. I was doing mainstream plus advanced C1, C2, C3A. Well, actually, it was C3 because it was before they split the three lists into A and B. And Bill Hyman was there.
Oh yeah.
And Bill says, how about doing a C4 dance for us on Sunday morning? I said, Bill, I can't even spell C4. I have no clue what you're talking about. And he said, oh man, he said, you can do it. He said, we have a very fun group. He said, nobody gets serious. He said, just all you got to do is just brush up on some of those C4 calls and intermingle them with what you've been calling. And he said, and it'll be fine. And I let him convince me to do it. And
Right.
it was fun. But I don't think I slept the whole night, Saturday night after that Saturday night dance. I was sitting there going through all those calls. And I would say that's probably one of the most hardest and maybe memorable dances, that I ever did. Because I mean, it's like I wasn't calling the calls, I was asking them. Uh, can you do this? Can you do that? And they'd shake their head yes or nod their head no. And that's the way the dance went. And we had a blast. We had a blast. Bill was just, I love Bill Hyman to death. He's just, he would come to our weeks at Kirkwood, and he'd come to the C1 and C2 week that Ross and I used to do. And he'd dance with either my wife or Ross's wife. And he was such a pleasure to be around. And I know you know Bill well too.
Oh yeah.
Great guy, great guy.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most uncomfortable dances I think I ever called, I think it was before I ever went to South Texas. I would every summer I would go to Mesa. Not every summer, every year I would go to Mesa and call for Burl Maine when Burl was still
Mm.
alive and calling in Mesa. And I went in to some of those halls, and you could literally, you walk in the hall and you could feel the friction in the air, and you could see, oh, this group's not going to dance with that group. And oh, it was very it was very uncomfortable, to say the least. Now, these weren't Burl's groups. These were groups, that I picked up while I was there, so, hey, while you're here calling for Burl, how about doing these, and and I thought, oh boy, what have I gotten into? But we got through it. It all went well. All went well.
Oh yeah. So, well, so many questions, everything you say is like triggers 12 more questions. Like,
Oh yeah,
holy smokes.
yeah. How well I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Eh, I guess when we have similar backgrounds. Oh, by the way, along with the motorcycles, because, there's a life outside. Maybe you don't remember this, but there was a life outside of square dancing. Uh, I think you've been discovering that. Back in the day, why were you towing those motorcycles around with you? What were you doing?
You talking about me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, if I didn't ride the motorcycle to where I was going, I 9 times out of 10 I did haul it. And I see back in those days when I finished my winter program for the season, I would not return home until the next season started. I spent the entire off season, summer season on the road. And when I packed, I had to pack for the whole summer. And some of those trips I would make on the motorcycle. Some of them I didn't have, I would just haul the motorcycle. But I always wanted the motorcycle where I was going to be so I could ride, because some of those areas, were just,
Oh,
oh my gosh, fantastic to ride in.
yeah.
And I think the time that at the old American Advanced and Challenge Convention, when I remember one year I towed it in there. And I had done that because I don't recall, I was either coming from or going to the old English Mountain in Tennessee. and I wanted to make sure I had my motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
So, in fact, I think I was coming from English Mountain, maybe, and I had the motorcycle there, and so I towed it, the rest of, you know,
Oh yeah.
those travels. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Still love
super.
riding. Still love to ride.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've sold everything I had. You have those regrets. Oh Lord.
Oh yeah.
What was your favorite bike?
My favorite bike. I started out on the old Cushman scooters, the old
God,
three and a
yes.
half horsepower Cushman scooter, and my dad I always called him a horse trader. He was a horse trader. He was always trading. And I never knew what he was going to come home with. And one year he came home or one time he came home with a Cushman Eagle. And boy, I thought I was in high cotton with that thing. And it wasn't long after that, Cushman, I guess it was Cushman. Do you remember the motorcycle was called a Mustang? It looked like a little miniature motorcycle. And it was a little bit bigger than just the scooters. And I saw one of those and I thought, oh, I'd really like to have one of those. And I was really lobbying my dad for one of those. And in 1964, he came in with the Harley Sportster, and that was my first Harley Davidson.
Oh, yeah.
And I had that thing. I had that thing. Oh my gosh, up until probably sometime in the 90s. And I finally sold it because I was afraid my boys were going to get on it. And that motorcycle was built to compete against the BSAs and the Triumphs. So everything was reversed. It broke from the left side, you shifted to the
Mm.
right side, and it even throttled up instead of down. And
You
I
could
thought,
kill you
I
could
thought,
kill yourself on that.
you're not kidding. And I thought if one of my boys got on that thing, that's what would happen. So I got rid of it. But that was probably my favorite motorcycle, just simply because it was my first Harley.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And I've
yeah.
always had one ever since, at least one.
No kidding. Wow. Have you ever raced?
I did. When I
Yeah.
first got out of the service in 1970, I had dirt bikes and I decided I was going to get into motocross. And
Oh, wow.
I raced motocross for a little while and even ran, that was when they started the Supercross series, in the LA Coliseum and all those. And I ran in a couple of those. And I'll never forget, I was on the starting line one day and I looked down that line and up and down it. And I thought, what in the world am I doing out here with all these kids?
Yeah.
They've got nothing to lose and I've got everything to lose. So I returned the bikes to the dealer and said, here you go, I'm done. But that was the extent of my racing.
Yeah, in the 70s, you would have been like their grandpa, compared
It's
to what
about
they
right.
are.
That's
Oh,
right. That's
Lord,
right.
yeah. I mean, the kids are so good today. Well, the bikes are so good.
Yeah.
So other than square dancing, what's life like on the outside? Do you do you have a circle of friends that you go play bridge or canasta or poker with, or
I never, I guess I got burned out on cards in the service. I did my share of that. If we were to go to Las Vegas right now, I would not spend a penny gambling. I just, I don't know. I just never got into that. But I tell you what, we've really gotten into since we moved to Oklahoma. Well, since we've cut back on calling and have time, and since we moved to Oklahoma, we belong to a church that 5 of us guys decided we needed to do something for the homeless. And so we built a shower trailer, and we have a shower in the front and a shower in the back, and we take it out to the homeless camps and set it up, and the homeless can come in and come into the trailer and take showers, and all the ladies collect clothes and they give them a fresh clean set of clothes to wear after shower. We've really gotten into that, and I'll tell you what, it's really opened our eyes as far as the homeless population goes. And the one thing that really got me interested in it was when this church first started talking about doing this. What popped into my mind was when I was in the service, we got involved in a lot of the POW raids, POW rescues, I guess you'd say. And the first thing these POWs asked for was a shower. And I thought, I got to do this. I told my wife, I said, I've got to do this. I said, this was meant for me to do this. So that's, during the winter months, we're not taking it out because it's just too cold. We do have, water heaters. The showers are hot water, but nobody wants to take a shower when it's real cold anyway. So we'll start it again in March, probably mid to late March. And,
Oh,
but we've really gotten into that, and we've really enjoyed it. Really, it's very rewarding, very rewarding. Some of the stories of the homeless just will absolutely break your heart. Others, it's a lifestyle they chose.
hmm.
And others, it may be, drug or alcohol related, but, it's really, we really enjoy doing that.
Wow. That's really good. I spend so much time listening to your stories. I forget what was the question I was going to ask. Ah, Lordy. Yeah, I'm going to open it up to the folks that are watching as well shortly. But
Cool.
have you ever been embarrassed as a caller?
Well, yeah, oh, I'm sure I have. I was telling this story just the other night. When I was a kid growing up, a lot of the kids that I square danced with, we all grew up together. And as we went through the ranks, we saw some of the pranks that callers would pull on one another, and there were some really good ones back in the day. And we had always laughed and joked about how funny it would be to get the caller out after a dance some night, just get him blitzed, and either put him on a bus or a plane to the wrong place. And
Jeez.
one year in the Dallas area, I had a club that they had a New Year's Eve dance always on the Saturday night before New Year's Eve. And on this particular year, New Year's Eve was really on Sunday. So my group in Dallas danced on Saturday night, and then I had a dance up in Amarillo, Texas, Sunday, New Year's Eve dance. And so they hit me up about coming to their house for the after party Saturday night. And I said, no, I got to get up early and get on a flight. Oh, come on, we'll make sure you get on the flight. Well, they did. Stuck me on the wrong plane and sent me to, instead of to Amarillo, they sent me to Midland, Odessa Airport. And I mean, boy, I was feeling no pain. I got off that airport, and I'm walking around, looking around, and I'm like, this doesn't look familiar. And I walked up to one of the information booths and I said, excuse me, ma'am, can you tell me where I am? Said, well, yeah, you're in the wing such and such and such. And I said, no. Tell me what city I'm in. And she looked at me really funny, and she says, well, you're in the Midland Odessa International Airport. And I said, well, I think there was a lot of adjectives that came out of my mouth that I can't repeat, but this was way before cell phone days. So I had a phone number for the couple that was supposed to meet me at the airport. And I called that number, and obviously they're not home because they're at an airport in Amarillo waiting for me. And
Jeez.
I left them a message and said, I don't remember the excuse I gave them, but bottom line, the flight's been delayed and I won't be there until later, such and such time. And so I proceeded to the gate. This was back in the days when you could get on a Southwest flight and you didn't even have to have a ticket. You just sit down on the plane, and if you had a ticket, you handed it to the stewardess. If you didn't have a ticket, you gave her $25. You could fly anywhere Southwest flew for $25 back in
Yep.
those days. And I headed back to the gate that's going to Amarillo, and just by chance, I happened to pass the bar. And I thought, boy, I need a drink. So I go in there and I sit down and ordered a drink, and I noticed the guy beside me. I asked him, I said, where are you going? And he says, Amarillo. And I said, I tell you what, I'll buy all the drinks if you'll get me on that plane. Make sure I don't miss the plane. So he did. I went to Amarillo. I have no recollection of ever calling that dance. But it was within a week later, I get this envelope in the mail, no return address, and it's postmarked Amarillo. And I thought, they want me back. And I opened up that letter, and I don't know if you remember it or not, but there was a hand-drawn cartoon in the old Sets in Order magazine. Had the caller standing on the stage with a chair in one hand and a bullwhip in the other
Yeah,
hand.
yeah.
And he says, I said circulate by God, and I mean circulate. And that's all that was in that letter. So, needless to say, I didn't go back to Amarillo for a long time. And
Jeez.
I still to this day wonder what in the world did I do? But that's probably that's probably the one dance I guess I probably would really rather forget.
Gee, that's wild. So, how would your friends describe you?
How would my friends describe me?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. Decca always just, Decca's always saying, you never meet a stranger. She said, they'll be your best friend within 5 minutes. And, I guess maybe that's what they'd think too, because we've got so many friends and I look at them all as my best friends. I can just sit down and enjoy, no matter what we're doing, I could enjoy it with them.
That's great. How would you how would you describe yourself? In few words. What would you like to be thought about as being a kind person, a liar, pants on fire, whatever?
I I just I just like to be remembered as a friend, someone that was concerned about everybody, and would do whatever I could to help them.
So, have you written your memoirs, an autobiography, or
No, my sister's been after me to do that. She wants me to start and write a history of our family on up to you know through my life, and maybe one of these days, I just still enjoying everything we're doing right now. So, haven't taken the time to start doing that. I am the oldest
uh,
in our family. um, I only have one other relative, older than me that still live, and it's an uncle. And so it's everybody kind of looks to me as the family historian. And anytime something comes up, a question about the family, they'll call or write me, and okay, what happened? So, and I enjoy that. I accept that role very graciously.
okay. Well, there's a problem there, though. You're gonna hate me because I'm the oldest left remaining survivor in my family, and first off, I'm going to say just open up a word program and type a few memories of what's going on in your life today and in the past. Try to include one little segment from the past, one from today.
Oh,
It's like a journal. And,
yeah,
whenever you get a chance, you can open that up and just add a little more. And it doesn't take too much. The problem is don't forget being the oldest in the family, they all look at you as the next to go.
that's right.
So,
Elmer and I are always not laughing about it, but joking about it when we see someone else has passed away.
oh yeah,
Either I call Elmer or Elmer calls me and says, well, I guess you just realized we moved one rung up closer to the top of that ladder or to the
yeah,
bottom, whichever way you look at it.
yeah. Okay, speaking of Elmer, and I'm not going to go there necessarily, but in a way that his life has impacted yours, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But you and Tom Miller now are going to be taking over ESP,
That's right. Yes.
or is that a secret?
No, no, it's really not a secret.
Okay.
Elmer's been telling people, and he asked me. Elmer asked me would I do it, and I said, Elmer, I said, look, I'm at the point in my career where recording's not going to do me any good. I don't care whether I record or not anymore. But I said, for you, I will do it. I said, because ESP is Elmer Sheffield's legacy. And Elmer's he has been so good to me through the years, and such a friend, that I told him, I said, I will do it. I said, see if you could get Tom interested too. And I said, I think Tom and I would,
Yeah.
we would do it. Tom's excited about doing it.
Oh, good.
I
Good.
can't say I'm excited about doing it because I'm only really doing it just for Elmer. That's it. If it weren't for Elmer, no.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
guy would give you the shirt off his back.
Yeah.
The guy is.
Well, yeah, that's another. Oh, as long as you got the ear of Tom, I want you to tell him to contact me and say he'll do an interview.
I'll do
God,
that.
oh, there's some history there. Oh,
Oh,
Lord.
I probably talk to Tom 3 times a day.
No, well, probably
Oh,
so.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised he hasn't called me today yet. He will.
Oh, yeah. I have some great stories with Tom. He probably doesn't remember, but Tom and his mom babysitting for my youngest boy, and
Oh yeah.
some crazy stories that went with Tom. Great entertainer. I'd
Oh,
love to
he's a
have
great
him.
guy.
Love to have him on as an interview guy.
He is so much fun.
Oh,
I love working with him. I love being around him. I mean, and
yep.
anytime you're around it, you better expect the unexpected.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hilarious. We're gonna, we'll be at Color Lab together this year, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
already trying to figure out some way I can nail him before he nails me.
Wish I could tell you some of the stories so that you could nail him on them, but they're too involved.
I
Um,
understand.
so I think before we go on to trying to get some of these other folks to pry some information out of you, I mean, again, Darryl, we've only hit the tip of the iceberg with a guy like you. And there's so much and so much interesting, and the storytelling. That's why if you can write this stuff down, do it. Okay, first off, we've got to do a poll question on you, and I think maybe I better do that right now because some of my questions might impact people's answers. So let's see. I'm going to launch the Darryl Lipscomb poll, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty, here we go. So his number one, these are the two truths and a lie. Okay,
Yeah.
so he says he's called a dance with Grandpa Jones, or he's parachuted with a dog, or he's played a round of golf with Frankie Avalon. Now, some of you probably don't even know Frankie Avalon, but whatever. He was a teeny bopper singer guy, and if you knew the Mickey Mouse show with what was her name?
Annette Funicello.
Annette. Oh yes, Annette Funicello. Yeah. Oh wow, the days. So do your voting on this and see what it is. Right now, I see 100% of people think you. What are we looking for? We're looking for the lie. Okay,
Why not the lie? Yeah.
yeah, we're looking for the lie. So you might want to change whatever your answer is. Which one is the lie? Did he parachute with the dog? Did he play around the golf with Frankie Avalon? Did he call a dance with Grandpa Jones? I think he's done all three myself. Okay. It's still growing that they think you're lying about Grandpa Jones.
Ah.
Ah, yeah. Let me see. Played around. Okay. Boy, okay. I'm gonna. 75% have participated. There's three more people that. Oh, that's us. I can't. Well, I can't be involved. I don't know the answer anyhow. Okay. I'm going to close it off here, and we're going to find out what you have to say. Okay, share the results. Let's take a look at these results. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the truths. Played around the golf with Frankie Avalon. Did you do that?
Nope.
Oh, that's the
But,
lie.
but the reason that I put that down, I did meet him on a golf course. It was back in the day when he was the spokesman for oh oh gosh, what's the little drive-in restaurant? Sonic. He was
Oh,
the
yeah.
spokesman for many years, and at that time, Sonic was based in Joplin, Missouri, and anytime he was there in Joplin to make a commercial, he would eventually get to the golf course. And Dave Towery and I played a lot of golf in Joplin, and he was there one day at the golf course, and we met him, but I did not play around the golf with him. No.
Okay, so that leaves us open with let's go to the one about calling a dance with Grandpa Jones. That must have
That
been.
was that was really interesting. I was doing a Labor Day festival, and at the same venue, they were having a bluegrass festival, and Grandpa Jones was the headliner. And we were dancing it was a big skating rink they had converted into a dance hall. And we were dancing in the skating rink, and he was out in the putting on his bluegrass show in the I'll call it the amphitheater, an outdoor theater. And when he found out that there was square dancing going on, after one of his shows, he came over to the show, introduced himself, and said he was a square dancer. And so I got I told everybody, I said, okay, we're going to do a tip. Grandpa's going to dance with you guys. So he got out on the floor and wasn't much of a dancer, put it that way. But he then after he danced that tip, he said, okay, after the early evening show, I'm coming back over with you tonight. I'm coming back over here tonight after my first show. I'm going to bring, now he didn't call it a banjo. He called it a banjer. He said, I'm going to bring my banjo over, and I'm going to play some hoedown music for us to call to. And so I really didn't know if he was going to do it or not. But I set up, a couple of microphones so that, he would be able to. And sure enough, he came over and brought his banjo. And I kidded him when he came over the first afternoon. He was in a pair of just, like Nike athletic shoes. And I said, Grandpa, where's your boots? Because, that was always his trademark almost. And he told me the story about his boots. And he said, I only wear them walking on the stage and walking off the stage. And he says, that's the only time I ever wear them. And he told me how many times he'd had them resold from doing that. And so when he came over after his early show, he had his boots on, brought his banjo, and we had the microphone set up. And I got everybody squared up, and I said, okay, Grandpa's going to play for us. I'm going to call. Well, boy, I mean, he just tore out, and we went from song to song to song. And I said, come on, Grandpa, you call for him. And he did. He actually, he'd call a little sequence to him, very simple, but he did. And that tip that we did that must have lasted a good hour. The dancers' tongues were dragging the floor, but they were having a blast. They ate it up. So I always kidded everybody. I said, well, excuse me. I said, my claim to fame, two things. I got to call a square dance with Grandpa Jones, and I actually autographed a record for Conway Twitty.
Oh, my.
So that was my Grandpa Jones story.
Okay. Well, before we go to the last one there, what was the record that you autographed for Conway Twitty?
I was calling the Tennessee State Festival, and it was in Opryland Hotel. And that particular year, they had Conway Twitty booked as the after party entertainment. And trying to think. Getting old sucks, can't remember much. Anyway, I had just gotten a new record. It was not a record I recorded, but it was the old Conway Twitty song. I think his version was, lay you down. All I want to do is lay you down. The square dance, back then it would be too risque to say something like that. So, the lyrics were changed to my world lights up whenever you're around. And I was doing that song when Conway walked into the hall. And after the dance, he put on his show, And then his band stuck around and actually played just dance music for everybody to, to dance to. And I was standing somewhere around the stage, and the drummer came up to me during the break and says, "Aren't you the guy that was singing when we came in?" And I said, "Well," I was calling. He said, "Well, Conway would like to meet you in his bus." And I'm like, "Whoa." So, he takes me out to Conway's bus, and, we had our introductions, and Conway says, "You were singing one of my songs when I came into the hall." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "We'll take popular songs and convert them into a square dance." He said, "Well, you changed all the words up." And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, I had to put the square dance calls in there. And he said, "No, you kept saying something about your world lighting up." And I said, "Oh, well, yeah." I said, it really be too, you just don't want to at an open square dance say, "All I want to do is lay you down." And so I told him, "We change the words." And he said, "And that's on a record?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "The instrumental's on one side and the vocals on the other side." He says, "Well, I'd like to have a copy of that." Now, if you think back to this was back when square dancing was having all the problems with BMI and ASCAP. And I'm thinking, "Oh Lord, he's
Oh,
willing to take this to his attorney." Well, what do you do? So anyway, I did go back to the hall and I got the record. Paul Markham recorded the record. It was one
oh,
of the
really?
very first Roadrunner records
Oh,
that they
wow.
came out with. And I took the record in and I gave it to him. And he said, "Oh no, I want you to autograph." And I thought, "Oh my God, now he wants me to sign a confession." so, so all I could think of was, what do you do? So I took the record, to Conway, best wishes, Darryl, gave it to him. And we were leaving Kirkwood Lodge one year, the year when Conway died, when he had that aneurysm. And the first thing I thought of was, what would I give to have that record back now that I autographed for Conway Twitty? And like I said, it wasn't one that I recorded by no means, but it was one of his songs.
Wow.
And I got the opportunity to tell his son and grandson this story. They came to South Texas one year and were the entertainers for the big Border Fest that we have down there. And I was telling them the story. Now, I'm sure they're sitting there looking at me like, "Yeah, sure, buddy, that really sounds like a good story," but it really happened, so I got to
Wow.
autograph the record for Conway.
Well, great. So you parachuted with a dog.
Yep.
Were you the one with the parachute or the dog?
Well, the way the military has it, it was probably the dog's parachute. No, I was probably, I went into the service in 1966. And if you think back then, that's when they were having a lot of the racial riots all in the United States. And I took my basic training in Fort Polk, Louisiana, and they marched us right down the street to what they call Tiger Land, which was Vietnam infantry training. I did that, and I thought, okay, so I'm going to be an infantryman. Well, then when I left there, they sent us to, I drew orders to go to Fort Benning to jump school. So I went through jump school, no big deal. Got orders from there to go to Bragg through Ranger School. And I thought, okay, so I guess I'm going to be Airborne Ranger. So I did that. Well, then they threw me a big curve. When I got through with that school, they sent me to Fort Gordon, Georgia. And I went to an MP school. And I thought, man, they can't make up their mind what they're going to do. So at the end of MP school, me and three other guys from the company drew orders to go to Lackland Air Force Base to the Canine School. And, we met up there at Lackland with 4 Marines, 4 Navy, 4 Air Force, and the 4 of us Army. It was a 16 of us. And we went through the Canine School. And when we finished that, all 16 of us drew orders. Now, while we were there, we all realized that we had all been through our respective militaries' same training, basically. And we then all 16 drew orders to go back to Fort Benning. I'm sorry, yeah, Fort Benning, and go through jump school with our dogs. And I mean, we're thoroughly confused. Sure, you got 16 guys. And to my knowledge, this had never been done before because everything had to be developed. We had, they had to, how are you going to jump with the dog? And so what ended up happening is we gave up our emergency parachute and the dog strapped to our chest where the emergency chute would be. And we had the dog tethered with a 20-foot training leash to us. And when we were in control of the jump, what used to be the release for the emergency parachute became the release for the dog. And we would pull that release and lower the dog down. And so the dog was still on, tethered to us, and he would hit the ground before us. We had to make 5 jumps. And we went through the training, and the dogs just went through it just nonchalant, no big deal for them. They did everything. We did the 4-day jumps, no big deal. But boy, when we did the night jump, those dogs, it was like jumping into a black hole. And the dogs did not like that at all. And when we completed that, they sent us all back to Lackland Air Force Base, Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force. And we were just sitting around really doing nothing. They're just thinking of crazy things for us to do. And this Green Beret colonel came in and says, boys, president's decided this is a bad idea. Well, of course, in the meantime, we had an Air Force DI tell us, says, well, don't you guys know what they're going to do with y'all? And we're like, no. He says, they're going to make a racial riot control squad out of you. And they're going to airlift you into these racial riots. They're going to drop you in. You're going to parachute into the riots and disperse the riots from the inside out. And obviously I'm thinking, no, this is not good. And like I said, after we'd been on hold there for a good while, the Green Beret colonel come in and he says, well, boys, the president's decided this is a bad idea. And I thought, man, I knew it was a bad idea the minute I heard it. And so they offered us, the opportunity to go, continue on into special forces. And all of us at that point in time were just like, well, just do something with us. We're tired of all this, And so obviously then I went right overseas with the dog and walked point. So that's
wow.
I really did jump with the dog. In fact, I jumped 5 times with that dog.
Jeez.
Luckily, it was never into a riot.
Probably be more fun to jump with a motorcycle, eh?
Oh, that would have been a lot more fun. Probably
Okay.
safer too.
Yeah, right. You could ride away.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll open it up. Anybody have any questions that we haven't covered yet?
Don't everybody speak at once.
This usually happens. Everybody gets shy.
Okay, I will.
Did Hannah leave us?
Did who leave us?
Hannah? Did Hannah leave us?
Lars is still there. There she is.
Did Hannah leave?
No, she's right there.
Oh, I guess I just don't see her.
She's right next to Lars.
I don't see him either. I don't know
Uh-oh.
why I'm not seeing everybody. I guess.
What have we
Maybe
got?
check out another computer. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, right.
Check out the other computer.
Lordy.
Can you hear us?
Oh, there you are. There you are.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to tell you how much we enjoyed having you at Paris, last Labor Day. That was so much fun being around you, being able to visit with you.
It was great. And we are looking forward to see you again at the Texas Convention.
Oh, are y'all coming back?
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Let's see, that's Labor Day. That's the Labor Day weekend, right? I believe that's our Labor Day weekend.
September, yeah.
Yeah, September, yeah. Great.
Oh, no, June.
Oh, that's Memorial Day.
That's the Texas Convention.
It's the first week in June.
Oh, you're talking about the Texas State Convention.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's the one you're coming back for.
Yeah, and the Nationals a week later.
Nationals, okay. Well, I doubt that I'll do Nationals. Simply, I just too much traveling, I guess you'd say.
But you'll be at the Texas Convention.
Well, I may make a point to now.
Yeah.
I really didn't have plans to go to it, but I may just do that now.
Hey.
That's cool because we really enjoyed you guys. Y'all
Yeah.
was so much fun to be around. Let's see. Did you go to Doug Minnett's place after the convention, or
Yes, we did.
did? Okay, I couldn't remember. I know some did. I guess it was Slappy and his wife that didn't go, and they
No,
said
they
they were going to go.
They didn't. Yeah, true.
They didn't go. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's great. Anyway, we're going to look forward to seeing you guys there. I would like. I tell you, I have a favor to ask of you.
Yeah.
Would you send me just a couple of recordings of a couple of singing calls of you calling?
Oh, me calling. Oh,
Just a couple of your favorite singing calls or whatever,
okay.
if you don't mind.
I don't mind, but I need your email address.
Well, I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you.
Okay.
I think I sent you an email, didn't I?
No.
I thought I sent you a message or something after that.
Oh,
convention.
yeah, you did. True.
I'll get my email address to you.
Okay, great.
But I'd
Yep.
like if you would do that for me, please.
Sure.
Okay. I'm ready
Darryl,
for some other questions. I want to be on the hot seat.
that's right. Well, I'll send you my recordings of how to yodel.
Oh, okay. Hey, I need that now. That's funny. Just yesterday, one of my favorite groups is called Riders in the Sky.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure you've heard of him. And he has a song that he does that's absolutely fantastic. It's called How the Yodel Was Born. And if you've never heard that, go on YouTube, look it up. How the Yodel Was Born by the Ghost Riders in the Sky. Or Riders in the Sky. Riders in the Sky. Check that out. It's priceless. It's priceless. It's great.
That's good. Well, we got a hand up from Bill and Stephen. Let's go with Bill first. You had it up first, I think. Go ahead, Bill.
I just want to say, Darryl, I enjoyed some of your stories when you were talking about. You say you started dancing in 1958.
Yeah.
I was 5 years old about that time, but I was.
Hey, don't do the math.
No, I try. No, hey, we're callers. We only count to 4, isn't that?
Yeah. Well, I've never seen a caller that could get past 3 personally.
Okay.
Anyway, what you said about your wife and that's how she wasn't a dancer. That was what happened with my wife as well. My wife Lynn, she was not a dancer when we met, and she wasn't really planning to get into it there. But she'd go to dances with me, and she'd sit in the back. When they'd go up and ask her to dance, well, I'm not a dancer, and they'd look at her like she had a disease. Like, yeah. You're married to a caller and you're married and you don't dance.
I believe it or not, I know several callers who's
I'm like you. I also know several callers, but she eventually did start. She got up to about mainstream, but after that, she kind of wasn't interested, and I wasn't going to push it.
Sure.
I was calling since 1977. I started to dance. 81 is when I started the calling, and I had a nighttime job, so I only called on weekends. But when I retired in 2008, then I became a full-time caller, and I was calling all over the place, and was doing good until 2016 when I had an accident where I fell and broke my ankle. So I don't have the mobility anymore to call and for you said about Oklahoma. I lived in California since age 7.
Yeah.
And so when my wife, she's Choctaw, 1, 2, she has family here.
Yep.
And so she finally convinced me, and we came out here 5 years ago, and it was the best damn thing I did.
Yeah.
I don't call anymore. I involve myself in these Zoom sessions because I like to help the newer callers if I can, with my 40 years of experience, on the job training. But I know somewhere in my repertoire, I have many of your records. I know that for a fact. And it's just, I got just a footnote. You are on my friends list on Facebook. I just want
Yes, that's right.
So,
that's right.
We're neighbors of sort now.
There you go, boy. Yeah, in the same state. Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I enjoyed this very much, and I'm going to let Steven's got his hand up, so I'm going to do Joe's job
Yeah.
and sorry, Joe, just
No.
and let it go on there. Thanks again, Darryl.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Really enjoyed the interview. Darryl, I was going to ask you if I could get your email, I'd send you the thing from Wayne Daniels about Bill,
Bill,
If
yeah,
you-
that'd be great. Yeah.
if you're interested.
Yeah. Do you have something to write with? And I'll just,
Can you put it in the text and I'll just copy it from there?
in the text.
In
Yeah.
the chat.
Chat.
In the chat.
Oh, in chat. Oh, okay. Let's see how I do that. I'm clicking. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot I'm on my wife's computer, so I've got to. She's got a different computer.
Nice to know there's a handful of us out there that
Oh,
still
okay.
have are tech challenged.
Here we go.
Just make sure you spell it right.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Hannah can get this too this way. Let's see. Oops. Oh, I guess I just, okay, here it is. There it is. Okay, there it is.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'll send
Okay,
that to you right
mighty good.
away.
I didn't realize I could do that. How about that?
Aha.
I learned something.
Okay.
I do a few Zoom sessions with some young callers that I've been kind of working with and trying to help what I can. And so I'm sort of getting to learn my way around these things, but still got a long way to go.
Well, it's been great having you on, Darryl. Again, actually, I went through Oklahoma to get down here to Florida. Might go through there again when I on my way back.
Well, if you do holler, and we have a bed and bath. You know,
Oh.
I just remember. I'll tell you, like my sister told me, B&B doesn't mean bed and breakfast. It means bed and bath.
Oh. Well, if I do that, I'll bring the breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here till about the 15th of April, so
Yeah.
we'll be heading back. I used to always fill up my days traveling with dates and all, and
Yep.
so like you've probably been a lot of places and seen very little of some places.
You know, Marshall Flippo said that to me one time. He said, you know, we've been all over the world.
Oh, we lost your
Just
voice.
lost your voice.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Is it bad?
There you go.
Yeah,
You're
that's
back.
gone.
Yeah.
Good.
Flippo one time, he says, you know, we've traveled all over the world calling, but we've never visited any of those places we called. And I know he started in his latter years trying to spend more time visiting. And we did the same thing. My wife would book all of our tours, and she would always allow time to visit in the areas and see them. And that's really nice. And just now what we want to do is go back to those areas, not to call, but just to visit, you know, to see them.
Yeah.
The last time I was overseas, I think it was well, tell you a real quick story. When Decca and I, we'd been married for a little while, and she says, how come you don't go overseas and call like a lot of these callers do? And I said, I did it for many years, and I got tired of it. And she says, well, I'd like to go. And I said, well, you have the caller, you have the calendar, you book the dances. So she booked about 4 tours, and we were on our last one over there, and this was, I think, in Denmark, and we were doing 2 weeks in Denmark. She comes to me and she says, you really don't want to come back and do this again next year, do you? And I said, not really. She says, good. It didn't take her long to get burnt out too, but you know, you realize people don't realize how much work's involved. You know, when I was in Japan, I felt like a baton in a relay race. I was passed from one group to another group, just boom, 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 boom. And pretty soon it's like, God, is there any end to this? You know, but
Yeah.
you know, you wouldn't take it, you know, you wouldn't take nothing for those memories anyway.
No. You know, it's at the time many times it's you wonder why you're doing it.
Yeah.
But the memories are fantastic.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a lifetime of memories, you know. That's we've been documenting a lot of the photos and things that we have, and since we moved, and we've really enjoyed that. It's really been neat. It brings back so many memories.
It does. Yeah. Well, okay. We're going to have you back on again next year. Coming up now, it's again a great slate of callers that we got coming up. We got Mike Sikorsky next week.
Oh, cool.
Um, After Mike, Tony Oxidine will be after him. Mickey, Michael Braithwaite, or Mickey. We can't say Mickey Braithwaite. It's got to be Michael
Yeah.
Braithwaite, or just Mickey. Um, and I'm going to have to dig into that. And then at McAtee towards the end of the month.
Oh, that'll be good.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
So, we got a bunch on. And I have a new idea for a new kind of a Zoom show that will be fun, involving callers. And we'll see if I can get that going. I have to let y'all know about that. So,
Yeah.
and it'll involve 3 lady callers and 3 men callers.
Well, boy.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Oh, okay. That might be interesting.
yeah, I think so. I think we'll have fun with that. So, anyhow, we got to work on that. So, thanks a lot, Darryl. This has been great.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it. It's nice visiting with all of you guys, and
That's great.
this is great. This is great what you do. I've done a few Zoom sessions where callers did interviews, and it's really nice because dancers get to dancers, like you were saying in particular, get a chance to really meet and understand some of the callers.
Yep, some of the background. And this is going on YouTube, and all of the past callers have had, a good number of people that have watched.
Yeah.
So that's, it's there for posterity for whatever it's worth.
Well, make sure I get the link, and I'll get it out to all of our people here. And
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure the lady at church sees it because she's the one who reminded me today of it.
Well, I got to thank Mark Hart too here. He put together a little promo thing ahead of time. Did you see that?
Saw that, and
Isn't it
that was really neat what he did. Yes, that
Yeah.
was really good. In fact, I think that's what I shared on my Facebook page.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think I shared that on my Facebook page. But yes, that was
Super.
really neat. Really neat.
Alrighty, folks. Well, thanks for coming in, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds
Thank you,
good, Joe. And hey,
Thank
keep
you,
us in
Joe.
mind on that
Joe.
when coming through Oklahoma.
Okay, I certainly will.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye bye.
Good to see you again.
Bye,
Bye.
Darryl.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Joe.
Bye.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
Di, how you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks, Darryl. Good to see you again.
Good to see you guys. Wow.
Long time no see.
I'm telling you, I know we
Yeah.
really enjoyed, Decca really enjoyed, well, I did too. We really enjoyed our last trip over there. It was really wonderful.
Yeah.
One of our host couples was, they lived in one of the homes that dated back to the thatched roofs. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. I can't think of their name offhand, but we had a great time. Trying to think of the name of the couple that kind of ran the weekend.
It was, Anthea and Richard.
Richard and Anthea. How are they?
Well, unfortunately, we no longer have Richard with us, but Anthea's doing okay.
He passed away. I did not know that. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well,
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah.
Well, at any rate, it's great seeing you guys.